Hello and welcome to the Daily Space for today, September 20th, 2019. It feels a little bit weird to be sitting here working today because currently all over the globe there are workers walking out of businesses, there are children walking out of schools to, basically send up a message to anyone who will listen that our environment needs a little bit of help. Today is the global climate strike, and I'm making the choice to be here today to talk to you about science. And climate science is part of that. I still remember exactly where I was when I had that moment of deep understanding of what exactly climate change is and what it means. It was back in the 2002-2003 school year, and I was standing in an office in Combuck Publishing where I worked at Astronomy Magazine, and I had just finished reading either Nature or Science magazine, and the particular issue that I'd just been reading as part of my job sitting on the news desk was reading two different stories. One of them talked about how our planet's weather patterns will radically change if our ocean currents change. Right now we have these significant, what we refer to as conveyor belts, working in our oceans, where warm equatorial waters are circulated northward, where in the Atlantic Ocean, they work to warm England, Ireland, Northern Europe. And where in the Pacific Ocean, they work to keep the climate of Seattle and Vancouver extremely temperate. These ocean conveyor belts are part of, thermoregulating our world. And if they shut down for some reason, it's going to lead to a radical warming of equatorial waters, which means stronger hurricanes. And it's going to mean a cooling of northern waters, which means significantly worse winters for Northern Europe and the Pacific Northwest. And in that same issue, there was a different story from an observational scientist who had been monitoring the ocean's salinity. And in their paper, they discussed how the melting of the glaciers of Greenland, of the ice caps, the melting of Antarctic waters, or rather Antarctic now water was ice shield. This changing in salinity with the flood of fresh water into the oceans was going to shut down those conveyor belts. I was reading that paper, those papers, in the 2002-2003 school year. And today we're seeing the outcomes of those two papers becoming the reality we live in. We're seeing Category 5 hurricanes that are driven by those warm equatorial waters become the norm and not the exception. We're seeing those bitingly cold northern winters that we haven't seen before. And there's a lot of people out there that are saying, there's no global warming. I'm not experiencing my experience getting warmer. But the thing is, what we're looking at is the entire world getting a couple of degrees warmer, and a couple of degrees really isn't a lot to call home about, except for how it impacts the temperatures about that average. When I have a fabulously cool summer, such as I've just experienced, with not that many days over 100 degrees, that means that for that average to not go up very much, if my temperatures are 10 or 15 degrees below normal, someone else is having temperatures 10 or 15 degrees above normal. And those above normal temperatures this year, those were in the Arctic, where we saw sea ice melting and polar cities become, massive port cities for shipping lanes we never thought would exist. This is how averages work. If you're maintaining the average or only raising it a little bit, when this place goes up a lot, somewhere else has to go down. And sometimes small changes have a massive impact. And people always talk about the butterfly effect, and no one actually understands the butterfly effect. But some of you out there cook. And if you've ever tried to cook candy, to make a pie crust, or to bake anything at altitude, you know that small temperature changes, that small air pressure changes, that small changes in the moisture in your recipe all lead to a radically different outcome. And those changes that we've experienced while cooking, well, we can always scrape our disaster into the dog dish and let them take care of our mess and just start from scratch. But with our planet, we can't just throw it all out and feed it to the dog. We can't start over. This is the only world we've got. And if we wreck our environment, we're done. There's no starting over for us. There might be starting over for somebody else, but not for us. Our environment is a super finicky system, and it's dying, or at least large areas of our ecosystem are no longer capable of supporting life. We are seeing vast dead areas in our oceans where there isn't enough oxygen in the water to support life anymore. We are finding microplastics at every altitude of air and water. We have seen 29% of the birds in North America die off. Right now, our planet's climate is so advanced in its decline that if it were a car, we'd be taking it in for trade-in and getting a new one. And I don't say that lightly. I'm someone who drives a 22-year-old Jeep Wrangler. And before you at me about the environmental impact, I only drive like 2,000 miles a year. It's less impact to keep this car than to get a new one that someone will have to manufacture. Anyways, I drive a 22-year-old car that I'm still driving because it still works well enough that I'm going to keep using it. But our planet, if I could get a new one, I would. But there's nothing any of us as individuals can do that will make the kind of difference that is needed right now. Sure, we can make choices. We can choose, as I've done, not to have kids. We can choose, as so many other people, not me, have chosen to not eat meat. We can recycle. We can drive less, bike more, fly less, stay at home more. But as individuals, we can't have the kind of change on what's happening right now that is necessary to fix what's going on. Human impacts that are due to pesticides, weed killers, pollution, all the hormones that get into the water system from peeing out birth control. All these factors together are what's affecting our environment. And what we really need are massive changes that are required of us, because we're all just too lazy to stop getting Amazon Prime. We're all too lazy to stop ordering things cheap air freight from India and China. We need our planet's leaders to say, we all need to pull back. We all need to take a breath so that future generations can take a breath. And we need to implement the kinds of change that may horribly impact our economy so that we can have an environment. Because isn't it better to leave our children an environment than an inheritance? The economy will rebound. It can rebound faster than our environment. And we need someone willing right now to make those tough choices. The tough choices, our kids are saying, yes, make those choices. We want a planet. And next week, the United Nations is going to be taking on these issues and looking to see what policies can we enact. And while I don't have a lot of faith that our nation here in the United States is going to be a leader, I can look to companies and corporations, many of which the largest in the world are headquartered here in the United States. And I can say, you're responsible too. Your economy is greater than that of a nation, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft. Make the choice and be a leader. And so while I sit here on the internet, instead of out there protesting, I want to say to you, we can try, and we need to try as individuals. But if you can, go that extra step and challenge the people who have the real ability to make a difference. Challenge your political leaders. Challenge the massive corporations that they need to force us to do better. And I suspect at some point all of us are going to dislike it. We're going to not like the medicine we have to take. We're going to get grouchy that we can't get that dress in a week from India custom cut. We're going to get mad that we can't get our Amazon Prime 1 day, 2 day shipping that sends airplanes all over the world. But when we see the birds come back, won't that make it worth it? Okay, I'm going to stop there. That's my climate rant. I could tell you how the world's going to be destroyed. I could tell you so many things. But it's just not worth it anymore. Those papers came out in the 2002-2003 school year. It's 2019. Let's force the change we need to see in this world. Okay. That's a lot. Let's regroup and let's look at some science. And in our first story of the day, I take you to Venus. And as the European Planetary Sciences Congress winds down, we're still seeing a few final stories come out that I can share. And this gorgeous picture of a world that we were all taught is green, that in reality is more lime, like key lime, just slightly green, mostly cream colored. This is a false color image that's designed to allow us to better see the small variations in the structures of the amazing clouds that circle this world and make it impossible to see its surface. Venus is a weird one. It's a bit closer to the sun than we are, but would still be capable of having life if only it didn't have a massive atmosphere that traps in vast amounts of heat, basically causes it to not be able to have liquid water on its surface because everything goes straight to water vapor, and rains out all sorts of acids that eat spacecraft. This is a world that is hotter than Mercury. And it's weird on so many different levels. It rotates extraordinarily slowly with 1 day, the time that it takes for the planet to rotate so that the sun is straight overhead at the same point on the planet 2 times. The time that it takes to go from sun straight overhead to sun straight overhead is 116 days. And what we see looking at its atmosphere is even though it's rotating so very slowly, its atmosphere is like, I'm just going to zip along as fast as I can. And we regularly see clouds and wind moving at 350 kilometers per hour in the upper layers, which is admittedly all we can really see. And sometimes there are even gusts to 700 kilometers per hour. This is far faster than any hurricane-driven wind here on the planet Earth. And what's even more amazing to me is when we look at the two hemispheres of Venus, we see radical asymmetries in both the wind speed and the shape of the weather currents. And in trying to figure out what's going on, Japanese scientists have a fabulous little space probe they can use. The Akatsuki spacecraft has been able to measure detailed fine structures in the wind and cloud formations on this world. And using this extraordinary new data, a team led by Takeshi Horikuchi, I'm so sorry, Japanese is not a language I know. In this new study, it's postulated that a weird new dark molecule that I mentioned a couple weeks ago may be partially responsible for this asymmetry in the atmosphere that's seen, where this ultraviolet absorbing dark molecule, which always makes me think of the strange dark molecule from X-Files. This strange dark molecule may be in having an asymmetric distribution through the atmosphere, driving the asymmetry in the wind patterns observed in the atmosphere. So that's super cool. And more than that, in looking at this world, they're able to continue to observe this really unique wind pattern that we don't see anywhere else, where on the I have to look to get this right. There are high-speed poleward winds blowing on the day side of Venus. This means that on the side of Venus that is being struck by the sun, the wind patterns vigorously blow outwards to the poles from the equator, heating the poles. Whereas on the night side of the world, there is a radical flow of air from the pole down to the equatorial regions. These circulation patterns that we're seeing on Venus, which is with its remarkable slow rotation, just might be the kinds of circulation patterns that we later find on tidally locked worlds orbiting alien stars. So in studying this world, we may be getting hints of just what might be one of the most common, meteorological patterns in our galaxy. So here's to a false color picture that is still strikingly beautiful of a really weird world that are coming to us from a spacecraft that we need to pay more attention to as it's out there studying Venus. And from Venus, we continue our journey through the solar system by skipping over to Mars. It has long been noted that Mars has amazing dust devils in its atmosphere, and as these swirling systems of wind move across the surface, they lift up dust, leave behind dark trails as they pass, and it's believed that the dust that's getting lifted up into the atmosphere by these dust devils is actually capable of heating up the atmosphere of Mars and helping this world be a little more insulated and a little warmer than it might otherwise be. Now, exactly how much dust a dust devil is capable of lifting isn't the kind of thing we have a really good understanding of. While we've been flying aircraft into hurricanes and dropping sensor packs in the paths of tornadoes, dust devils just haven't generally been that well studied, even here on our own planet Earth. At least not until now. This video footage that I'm now showing you is of a drone flying into a dust devil out in Oregon. In new work being led by Ralph Lorenz, researchers, including an undergraduate, and this would be like the coolest undergraduate job ever, are going out, sorry, it was still going, are going out into the arid parts of North America and flying drones with sensor packs into dust devils. They are able to essentially do the same kind of work that aircraft do when they fly into hurricanes. They are measuring the pressures, the air velocities, and they're even taking samples of all of that dust. And this research that we're doing here on Earth, because the science that works here is the same science that works everywhere, that research may help us better understand Mars and these amazing dust devils that can lift the material up into the atmosphere of Mars in a way that is both beautiful and planet warming. And that really is all I've got for today. And I'm realizing I now have white type on a white background, and I need to fix that. That's not going to get fixed today. So let's instead bring the chat back up. Let's try and bring the chat back up. And I will go ahead and hang around and answer your questions. But before I do, I'd like to remind all of you that The Daily Space is a production of the Planetary Science Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to exploring our solar system and beyond. We are put together by the ever amazing Susie Murph, who cat herds us through all the tasks that go into getting this show done. These shows are brought to you most Mondays but through Fridays by either me or my co-host, Annie Wilson. Annie's also here on Sundays to bring you the Sunday Science Hour and often is hosting streams showing you the launches, landings, and other special events as they happen that are coming out of the field of astronomy and space science. Give us a follow. Follows are free, and find out whenever we are going live to put science in your brains. We are brought to you by you. We are here thanks to your generous contributions, your bits, your subs, your patronage over on patreon.com/CosmoQuestX. All those things allow us to pay a living wage, and we really appreciate that. Susie and Annie wouldn't be able to do what they do without what you do. So thank you. And if you can't contribute financially, we get that. Can you instead spread the word? Can you let people know that they can tune in live right here on Twitch TV? Or they can give us a subscription over on CosmoQuest on YouTube.com. And we have a podcast. It is highly produced. I think you'll like it. Can you subscribe? It's literally called The Daily Space. So check it out and spread the word. You never know whose life you're going to change by introducing them to science. And now I'm going to notice that my computer is shouting at me that it's running out of battery. I am going to start by thanking people because I saw good things getting notifications spit up onto my screen. So I want to thank Silverlock for the follow, K. Barut for the resub. Thank you. That's 5 months. I want to thank Veronica Cure for gifting Hanny a sub. Thank you so much. And use those emotes, people. Use those emotes. I want to thank Wayne Johnson for the bits. I want to thank Veronica Cure for the bits. And you know how we thank people around here. We give you something cute to enjoy. Thank you, Anonymous. Ow, ow, ow. And thank you, Planetary Pan. And all you new people who now have subs, use those emotes. Use those emotes. Come here. You're not really on camera, dude. Come on. Come on. There we go. There we go. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Trekker Kev. Thank you. All these things kind of mean the world to us. Thank you. And I am now going to look for your questions. I'm going to keep those events over on the side so I can see what's going on. Okay. You guys make me happy. I kind of like that noise going off in the background. Um, Thank you, Commander Unifex. Come here, Eddie. Come on up. Come on up. You know how to do this? You know how to do this? Oh, I know. I know. You know how to do this. Good boy. Just a little bit of cuteness. It's the best way of saying thanks we have. Yes, you're a good boy. You are a good boy. All the new subs. It's amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to look for questions. There's discussion of pumpkin soup, and now I want pumpkin soup. I really need to start eating lunch before we record instead of after we record. Eddie hears all the new subs coming in, and he's just like, I want bits. I'm just about out of bits, dude. Just about out of bits. Just plain old pumpkin soup. It sounds like the season for that. Okay. Looking for questions. Commander Unifix is already in Saturday, I think. Open cage. If carbon sequestration from the atmosphere is at least marginally viable, does it make any sense to extract it from the ocean? Carbon in the ocean, or rather carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide that are in pockets at the sea floor, are probably best left where they are. They're not well understood, and it's usually best not to mess with things that are well understood. I am a proponent of carbon sequestration from the atmosphere. China's been running some experiments trying to figure out not just how to get carbon gas out of the atmosphere, but also how to extract pollutants. And they're actually turning it into jewelry and gemstones in some cases, which is a perfectly reasonable use for atmospheric carbon. Diamonds don't decay that quickly. Yeah, Veronica Cure is mentioning how she had to abandon her house during a bad winter storm last year. Oh, wow. Larry's pointing out that there are 6 named storms in the ocean right now. I had to turn off the weather alert software I had on my phone because it was just too hard to get all of the hurricane up and down notices all the time. And yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's thousands of people protesting across Europe, across England, across Australia. I'm hearing that there are some protests here. And Wayne Johnson, thank you for gifting 5 more subs. Thank you so much. Come here, Eddie. I'm just going to take what's left in this bag and let Eddie clean it up. Come here, baby. Come get the Cheerio dust. Come on up. Good boy. Good boy. Here, I will move. Oh, I'm now covered in Cheerio dust. I'm okay with being covered in Cheerio dust. Yeah, everyone's talking about all the things that are going on with their climates. Each human being has microplastics within them. This is true. Some of us also have megaplastics within us. Cyborgs are coming, and they're not going to be partially made of metal. Okay, looking for more questions. Yeah, Larry uses a great analogy. He points out that his medicine is expensive and upsets his stomach, but it lets his heart beat. We need to take that kind of medicine for our world. Oh, Wayne Johnson is sharing a story that I had missed this morning. Japan's Hayabusa 2 drops target markers on asteroid Ryugu. It drops these down so that it can have better guidance when it goes in to touch that surface. Don't be Venus. I think that's really a good moral, and someone really needs to make that into a t-shirt. I'm going to talk to Austin. So Henny's Warverb asked, does Venus's slow rotation make its climate worse? We don't fully understand all the things that affect Venus's climate. One of the things that I've always wondered about is something dramatic happened in Venus's past that caused it to get flipped upside down relative to all the rest of the worlds in our solar system. And I don't know if that kind of an event would have simply changed how the world evolved. There's a whole lot going on with Venus. It's a really cool world, and I haven't done a deep dive into the recent literature on it. Barely faster than Dorian. Venus is actually a bit faster than that. But I appreciate your sarcasm. Yeah, Hanny, I think we need more fiction that goes into the rhythms of life when you do have either much shorter or much longer days. We do know from experiments done on Mars researchers that when you force your spacecraft team to live on a Martian day-night cycle, which is 45 minutes longer than the Earth's day-night cycle, they go slightly crazy by the end of the period of time that they're asked to do that. So human bodies are really tuned to our 24-hour days. Looking, yes, the black stuff in its atmosphere is just plain creepy. Venus's atmosphere. So many emotes, so many emotes. This makes me so pleased. The picture I was showing really was a beauty shot of Venus, all done up to look as pretty as possible. Oh, DPI 209 points out that Akatsuki means dawn, which is what you rarely see on Venus. That is really cool, and my laptop is really threatening my life right now. If my laptop goes out, the stream will not go out. I just won't be able to see your questions. Unless I find my phone, which is somewhere down here. So Henny asked, does Mars get warmer before or after a planet-wide dust storm? I believe it's warmer after a planet-wide dust storm. And whoever suggested using the star in the chat, you're my favorite human right now. That is so much better than just tagging my username. I like how everyone's like, Susie needs to be a thing. Yes, Susie is a thing, but she does need to be a Nightbot command. Looking to see if there's any more questions. Yeah, so Susie's pointing out, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. The reason that we're begging for that right now is we're trying to unlock features that YouTube only provides to channels that have enough subscribers and have been viewed for enough hours. And this means we need subscribers and viewers. So can you subscribe and view? Or at least subscribe, please? Please? Follows are free. Yes. Yes. I love seeing all of the subs getting gifted. You guys are so good to each other, and I really like that. Keep being good to one another. So many emotes. So many emotes. Such a wonderful storm of emotes. So Larry's like, I heard one should never eat 45 minutes before public speaking. That's generally so that you don't have biological processes decide they need to become immediate biological processes while you're giving a talk. But in general, I've never really paid attention to that rule. looking for more questions. I am not finding more questions, which is good because I only have 4% battery life left. I am now going to go record the audio version of this episode so that you can have it downloaded to your favorite podcatching device to inflict on others. Please find the Daily Space in whatever podcast directory you are using. And if you don't find it, let us know and we will add it. And give us a subscription. Again, they're free. It's only subs here on Twitch that cost money. Thank you for everything you do to make this show possible. I am now going to see if I can click all the buttons that will let me do all the things. And I'm going to say once again, this has been the Daily Space. I am Dr. Pamela Gay, and I was your host for today. This channel is hosted by myself and Annie Wilson, and our own Paranor is also helping out when we co-stream things like the Weekly Space Hangout and Astronomy Cast, which is coming to you in an hour and a half. Today's episode of Astronomy Cast is going to take a deep dive into Saturn's rings, at least scientifically, not literally. Beyond that, we are a production of the Planetary Science Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to exploring this solar system and beyond. Your donations are tax deductible where the law allows, and our show is made possible through your bits, your subs, your patronage on patreon.com/CosmoQuestX, and we are so grateful for everything you do. And if you can't support us financially, that's okay. Just help spread the word, help make someone's life a little bit more scientific. And that's all I've got. So have a fabulous morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you may be in this world. Bye-bye.